Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tracy Dodson. I'm the Assistant City Manager, and I would like to welcome you to part 2 of our Eastland Community Meeting. Back on May 1st, we posted a presentation that was done and have had a comment period open until just yesterday. This part 2 will be a live question and answer session, and we will be answering a lot of the questions that have come in over the past several days. Before we start that, I want to acknowledge some of who we have in the room. I introduced myself. We also have Tim Sinema here from Crosland Southeast. We have Colin Brown, who's our attorney with Alexander Ricks. And we also have Councilmember Newton here from District 5, who is listening in from home. So with that, we will spend the first half of this doing a question and answer, addressing the questions that came in. But then we will also do a section where we're able to take in live questions. You can also find more information about the rezoning and what was posted if you Google Charlotte Rezoning Petition 2020-027 for more details about the rezoning. We won't be able to answer every question here today, but we've found some common themes that hopefully will answer the bulk of the questions that have come to us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Colin Brown to walk through a little bit of the rezoning itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Again, my name is Colin Brown. I'm a land use attorney with Alexander Ricks, working with the city in Crosland Southeast on this rezoning. As Tracy mentioned, this is really the second part of the presentation. A couple weeks ago, we posted online a presentation to review the rezoning plan and provide some bigger picture feedback. So based on that presentation, we've received from many of you some specific questions about the rezoning. So I wanted to tee off and talk a little bit about that. If you have not seen the presentation, please do take a look at it and you'll get a little bit of this more in depth. But one of the general questions was just to provide a little more information about the rezoning areas. And so if I can take you to the site plan now, if you can see that on your screen, you'll notice this is an aerial view of the Eastland Mall site. And what I want to draw your attention to are the areas outlined in red. So the red areas are the entirety of the Eastland Mall site that is involved in this rezoning. And what you'll see is the entire property is broken up by the red lines into 3 different development areas. So each of those development areas will have a specific set of zoning standards for those areas based on Crosland and the city's vision for what they will become. And our idea is this zoning really provides the framework. We don't have all the minutia of this exact building heights, what they're built of, but really created the framework for the types of uses that are allowed in those areas. So if you can see the 3 different development areas, I also want to point out to you, we have 2 different zoning districts that we're proposing. One is an MX2 district, and if you can see the site plan, that's on the northern most portion of the property, closest to the single-family neighborhood of Wallora Lake. On the southern portion of the property, those parcels facing Central Avenue, we've proposed a mixed-use development district, or a MUD, with optional provisions. And the reason we've used 2 different zoning districts is because we think there are going to be 2 types of intensity on the site. So the MX2 area, which is closer to the Wallora Lake area, that's really set up, the MX stands for mixed, and it's a mixed district, and that's really more of a mix of residential housing types. In addition to that, we have a set of development standards, and our development standards provide that the only uses allowed in that area are residential uses. So in the MX2 area closest to Willow Lake, those will be residential uses. We don't expect, and we're not entitling, so there will not be allowed retail, commercial, office uses there. That is exclusively a residential district, and we think that provides a nice transition from the single-family neighborhoods to the north to the commercial portion of this site, and then ultimately to Central Avenue. So that's what the MX2 district is about. We are requesting some innovative standards there. That's what the innovative means. And the idea there is we want a little bit of flexibility to design a more contemporary, kind of a neo-traditional residential development. So we've requested some flexibility on how the right-of-ways, the streets, and the sidewalks are designed in that area. So that is one zoning district. The other zoning district, which takes up the bulk of the site we're proposing, is the MUD-O. That is Mixed Use Development District Optional. And again, those are the two red areas fronting on Central Avenue. And we divided that up. So the MUD district will cover all of that along Central Avenue, but we divided it into two development areas. And the reason for that is the vision for those areas are different. We've asked for the MUD district accommodates all types of commercial uses. It's a more contemporary uses, contemporary zoning district, and it also allows a mixture of residential uses. So we think it's a better district for what Eastland will become. And again, we've divided into two development areas. Area 1, which I think Crosland Southeast Tim can talk about. Their vision is for this to be more of a mixed commercial development. And development area 2, one of the things we provided for there is the ability for a sports entertainment complex. And in that area, we've asked for some optional provisions to provide for innovative signage, innovative lighting to accommodate that sports complex should it come to fruition. So that's a high-level overview of the zoning districts. I think we're going to have some time at the end of the session where we can get some interactive and if we have any more questions on that, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Colin. I want to go now into addressing some of the questions that have been given to us prior to today's event. From there, we will go into the live Q&A where you can submit your questions and we will take them live. One of the first questions, and this is largely about the process, is what is the commitment or what is being committed to in a development agreement by the city and its partners? The zoning portion that we are in right now is specifically about the land use. There will be more conversation and more times that we take items around Eastland and the agreements around Eastland to City Council. There's a development agreement that we will begin to work with Crosland once we get through this land use portion of it. And that will address things like public investment into the site or things like affordable housing or open space commitments such as a park. The other question that we got is, does Charlotte intend to set aside $110 million in hospitality fund dollars to support the Major League Soccer expansion? If so, what is the timeline for the vote? What I will say to that is that the discussions on with Tepper Sports are very complex, and they involve the Eastland site as well as Bank of America Stadium and Tepper Sports. And they will take some time before we will be ready to bring that back to City Council for a vote. We continue to work with them as a partner, as we do with many of our partners throughout the city. The next question that we got was, how will the development accommodate affordable housing, and how do we mitigate gentrification brought on by new development? As I mentioned before, the affordable housing component and discussion of this will be during the development agreement and as we shape out what the public investment is and what the developer commitments are. So that's to come next in our process. As it relates to gentrification, we are planning for a strong mixed-use community, or mixed-income community, and we will work with the community as a whole and continue our outreach. I will ask Tim if he wants to comment at all on the gentrification aspect of it. But what I will say is that this is a undeveloped site at this point, so nobody is being displaced. But we want to develop a project that is strong and promotes more good development on the east side. Tim, do you have anything to add to that? Okay, great. The next question what will happen to current occupants or uses of Eastland, namely the open air market, the skate park, and the transit center. I'll address the transit center first. We have been working with CATS along the entire way to talk about how the transit center becomes a complement into this area in this larger redevelopment. And so we'll continue to work with them. There aren't any plans immediately to relocate the transit center, but it is a part of our discussion. That said, we have no intention of the transit center going away from this immediate area. The open air market, once Eastland becomes a construction site, it will be no longer safe to operate there. The market's license was scheduled to expire in April, and we did extend that through the summer, and we're working with the operators to explore next steps. So we will stay committed to that process as well. The skate park will need to be removed as a part of the demolition and the site work, and we look forward to working with the operators as we finalize plans for the property. The next question that I have is, what is the construction timeline, and how has the timeline changed due to the coronavirus pandemic? As another part of that question is, what's the earliest you would expect to see MLS components completed on site? So what I will tell you is that we're all adjusting to this new world. We are trying to keep the project on track as closely as possible. We have lost some time just in the rezoning process of trying to figure out how to do meetings virtually. That said, our goal of starting demolition and site work this coming winter remains the same, and we will continue to focus on that goal. It will take most of the chunk of 2021 to do the infrastructure. There's a lot of a street network that needs to be done, and water and sewer and things like that on site. Then hopefully towards the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, we can actually look at vertical construction. Depending on what type of construction that will depend on how long it takes to build. Now I think we are going to move into the live Q&A portion. And again, you can comment on these questions. I will read them. We may pull Tim or Colin up to answer them, but you can still feel free to send your questions in. So this question, I think, will be for Tim. We have received questions about the project's community engagement efforts. Can you speak to the Envision Eastland effort that has been done thus far?
Thank you, Tracy. I'm Tim Sidema with Crosland Southeast. The question about community engagement. Our firm was selected by the City Council in 2018, the fall of 2018, and we spent much of certainly the first half of 2019 with a community engagement effort, and that consisted of about 14 different neighborhood meetings, one large public hearing that had north of 200 people in attendance, and the other 13 were what we like to call dinner conversations, where we had 10 to 20, sometimes a little bit more than that, folks often around a dinner table just talking about what they wanted to see, what they did not want to see on the Eastland side. And so we learned a lot of information, valuable information that we used to build the Envision Eastland process, but the community engagement effort was through much of 2019. Thank you.
Tim, stay there for 1 second. I'm going to read the next question. Is what is being built on the site, and will there be efforts to revitalize the surrounding areas? If you want to address what's being built on site, we can together talk about surrounding areas.
That's great. Thanks for that good question. So we were charged by council with the mandate to help stimulate economic development in East Charlotte. That's our primary goal for the redevelopment of the Eastland Mall process. We can't just obviously snap our fingers and select which businesses and merchants and restaurants that we want to include in the development. We need to build a vision that is appealing to them and help them want to participate in the redevelopment process. Currently, the big idea for the project, and if I may ask for the big idea slide to be queued up, it'd be helpful. Keep going right here. So the high-level vision for the redevelopment includes a number of key components within the project. If you can see on your slide, this big idea slide, you'll see on the right-hand side, we include a component that's labeled active here, and that's really what we contemplate for a sports component, Major League Soccer, for example. We heard loud and clear from the community that sports, and specifically soccer, was of high interest to the East Side residents. In addition, on the north side of the site, or at least on the top part of the plan here, where we define reside, as you heard Colin speak, that's the MX district where we contemplate residential, and that residential includes several different housing formats, including single family, including townhomes, including perhaps multifamily components as well. In the middle of the site, on the frontage on Central, you see the Eat and Meet, and you might see the smaller label that says Signature Park. That Signature Park is one of the key features of the development that we contemplate, having a signature park that's heavily programmed and designed, also working in concert with green space and trails that will go throughout the site. And then lastly, where we define the daily, if we are successful in attracting the sports component, the residential, the public park and open spaces, we believe we'll be able to attract the commercial uses that can help continue to stimulate the East Side economic development. Those uses may include restaurants, maybe grocery, maybe commercial office, maybe medical office, and so on.
Okay.
Thank you, Tracy.
Don't go far.
All right.
I have a couple more questions. Trying to maintain our distance. What I will say beyond the site in terms of the commitment to this area, the city manager just proposed a budget, and as a part of that budget we look for City Council to approve, there's a continued commitment to studying the Albemarle and Central Avenue corridors and looking continuously at how we can improve those corridors for the residents as well as the business owners. And so our commitment to the East Side doesn't stop just at Eastland. Eastland is a great catalyst for it, but we continue to remain committed to the East Side. Another question that has come up is the Movement School. The Movement School is adjacent to the our Eastland project, and is absolutely still a component of this. The next question I want to get to is the connection into the site via Stillwell Oaks. So, Colin, if you want to come in and address that.
Yes, if I could go back one slide, maybe two. This is the slide. So as part of this rezoning process, one of the things that we do when we go through a rezoning process is assess the transportation impacts on the infrastructure. One of the positives here, if you keep in mind, Eastland Mall is current zoning and accommodated a giant regional mall. So there is substantial transportation infrastructure in place. It's hard to imagine another use that might come along that might generate more trips than the mall. But one of the parts of the rezoning exercise was to do a traffic analysis, look at impacts, and as we go forward in Charlotte, there's a capacity on how much we can expand our major thoroughfares like Central Avenue and Sharon Amity. So what becomes important is creating a really robust network of streets that allow people in vehicles, on bikes, and on foot to move through sites so that everything is not pushed out to the thoroughfares like Central Avenue or Sharon Amity. And so what you see if you're looking at this slide is you see a number of external connection points, and these aren't all of them. So what has happened in the last few years is the Department of Transportation in Charlotte has really embraced this robust network of streets. Is there is a mandate to provide for connectivity to surrounding sites. And so with or without this rezoning, one of the things we'd see our subdivision ordinance now requires when you're developing a major site like this, if there is a stub street or a connection to the property, any development team would have to provide a street connection to that. So we did want to make that clear so that residents understood. But if you see the map on the screen now, you do see Stillwell Oaks, which connects to Willora Lake and the residential neighborhood to the north. There is currently a street in that location. It stubs into the Eastland site. My understanding from talking to a few neighbors is that stub has been there for many years, but was stairs so that people could walk to the mall. But the requirement now, and really not related to this rezoning, but if anyone were to develop this site, there would be a requirement to make a street connection from the Eastland Mall property to Stillwell Oaks. And so we're showing that. We wanted to make that clear. Now, one thing I do want to point out is if you recall, I said, and Tim said, the area of the site where that Stillwell Oaks connection is the area of the site where Crosland foresees, and we're zoning only for residential uses. And we think that will be more of a single-family townhome, a lower density residential neighborhood. So it's also going to be very important to the development team that this street connection, though we need to provide it, doesn't become a cut-through that is negatively impacting the neighbors on Stillwell Oaks or the future neighbors that we foresee in this portion of the site. And so one of the things we've done and we're working on, and one of those innovative provisions that I was talking about for this area, is to design a street network that provides connectivity, but it's not a racetrack. You know, we've got some good design on the streets to slow traffic down and create some more streets that we think are more walkable. So there is a connection to Stillwell Oaks. We want to make that clear, but also let you know that the design team and the city staff are working hard to make sure that that does not negatively impact the neighborhood to the north.
Thank you, Colin. I want to read one question that has come in and says, there's a petition about the rezoning process being circulated. Will the city consider temporarily stopping the rezoning until the pandemic is contained and more information is available about units? I'm going to assume that means affordable units. And as I said earlier, the discussion about affordable housing on the site will come in our next step of this process. It is not part of the land use discussion. It is part of the development agreement, as well as other things like MWSBE, which is our minority businesses during construction and things like that. That'll be all a part of the development agreement as we move forward in that process. As it relates to the rezoning process, we have been working very closely with our planning department as well as legal to make sure that we are hitting all of the appropriate hurdles and requirements as it relates to community outreach and conducting this rezoning while virtually in a manner that still meets all of the requirements. I may ask Colin to step back up on this and talk a little bit more. There's a feeling that I think some of us want to see business go on as usual in this new world. We definitely, the pandemic is at the forefront of our business every day, but there are some projects such as inching Eastland forward that we want to stay committed to, and we've heard from council members and others that they want to continue to see move forward. Colin, do you want to come up and talk about our process?
Yeah, I'm happy to say I think everyone is trying to figure out how to adjust to the current circumstances. And I'd like to remind everybody, we had planned on doing our official community meeting on March 12th. We had that on the calendar. We had a large church in the area reserved, and we were planning to go. And this was just as COVID-19 was really breaking out, when we thought it best to put that on hold, not have everyone feel that they needed to come out to the meeting. So here we are, 2 months later, and with this petition and many others that we're working on, we're trying to find the best way forward. The good news, and municipalities are handling this different ways, but the state legislature last month, as part of their COVID legislation, did adopt some provisions specifically accommodating distance meetings. Most of that legislation speaks to how the public hearings will be conducted. And as I said, we're currently scheduled to have the public hearing on this rezoning hopefully on May 18th. But we're doing our best with processes like this to try and get information out to folks in the neighborhood and give them an opportunity to respond. I should say this is certainly not our preference either. We prefer to interact one-on-one, really make connections with people so we can read body language in a room and hear. But we're doing the best we can. And we thought this was a good approach for this petition, where we put out the presentation, over 2 weeks ago, and gave people time to digest that and said that we could reconvene and take questions. And so I'm happy to see that we are getting a good amount of interactive questions, which tells me that the information is getting out there and folks do have an opportunity to ask us questions. So thank you.
Yes. Colin, I will add to that I think I have not seen the numbers as of today, but there was more than 400 views of what we posted on May 1st. And so we are comfortable that the word is getting out there and that people are able to access the information. I have a two-part question, or two different questions I'm going to try to answer together. And one is, what type of businesses will be supported by the new zoning? What support will there be for small businesses? And then the other is, there a plan to attract businesses from the Central Avenue to the Eastland site? Let me start at a very high level with that and say that I think one of the most exciting things about this project is the ability to incorporate small business. And part of what we have been investigating from the city side is, how do we make this a site that is attractive for small businesses to come and thrive? And we would love to see some of these businesses be businesses that are already on the east side. We've heard that loud and clear from the residents over the years of community engagement, but also new opportunities for businesses to come in. So there's not a plan to pull from Central Avenue specifically into this site, but again, we do want to see businesses that are already on the east side and want to come to the site to be incorporated, and that it still represents the great community that exists on the east side today. In addition to that, we, in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, are talking about strategies for small business, even at a broader level. And how do we make sure small businesses not only survive today's issues, but thrive tomorrow? And so we're very intent, and this is a great catalyst site to be able to focus some of our efforts as we start to plan strategies around small businesses in our entire community. And so we will have a focus on small business here and small business being successful here in many years to come. Let's see if I have another one. Are there any provisions for the east-west greenway? I will invite Tim up to talk a little bit about kind of our open space parts of the plan, as well as greenway connections specifically, if you'd like to. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. As I mentioned earlier, the public park is a key element of the development. We're working with Mecklenburg County on the preliminary designs for that right now. Also, part of the process and the envision includes the greenway connection that will go basically all the way through the site. The exact route has not been established yet, but it will likely go from the upper right-hand corner of your screen. You can see the green lines and arrows there. That's a likely route that will go past the school, the CMS school, and then come back through the development and ultimately connect with Central Avenue. So those elements are not designed yet. We're still very early in the process, but they're key elements certainly for the vision. Thank you.
Here's another question, that if Stillwell Oaks is opened up as a connection road, will speed bumps and traffic lights, et cetera, be installed as well? I don't have a specific answer to that. Colin, if you want to answer that one.
I think the potential impacts on the neighborhood are something that's been looked at by the CDOT team and the traffic consultants as part of the analysis. At this time, there's not a commitment to install speed bumps, but this is something that I think the city has become more flexible about in the past. And if that connection is made and that's certainly something that can be looked at, as well as the potential for a traffic signal at the main access from the Willora Lake neighborhood to Sharon Amity Road.
Thank you, Colin. I have two more here that I'm going to quickly address, and then I just handed one to Tim to allow him to answer. Have walkability audits been conducted for the Eastland corridor, Central, Eastway, Sharon Amity? And what I would tell you, as I mentioned, we are staying committed in this next round of the budget to corridor strategies around Central and Albemarle. And I think we will be looking very intently at pedestrian mobility, bike mobility as a part of those corridor strategies. So there will be more to come on that one. The next question is, what are the land use development requirements in relation to parking management to ensure you reduce the carbon footprint in the area? I'll allow Colin to talk about parking requirements in MUD, but what I can tell you is that Tim and I have some very lively conversations about the parking, shared parking on the site, and how to best utilize the parking as it relates to all of the different uses so that it's not over parked, but that it's adequately parked for where we are. Do you want to talk, Colin, about the requirements?
Just very quickly to note that the parking requirements with the rezoning would go down significantly. So as I mentioned, the current zoning in place is for a regional mall, and many of the standards in the 70s, 80s, and 90s required substantial parking. So every 300 feet of office you have to have one parking spot. Some food and beverage uses, for every 75 square feet of restaurant, you had to have a parking spot. And so that led to, if you look at an old aerial of Eastland Mall, you see a building and a vast sea of surface parking. That's one of the positives about the mixed-use development district that we're moving towards, is it has a much lower parking requirement. The parking requirement for commercial uses is one parking spot per every 600 square feet of commercial use and one parking spot for every residential use. So it's a lower standard. It does then give the development team some flexibility on how much they think. And a mixed-use site like this, I think that Tim will tell you, one of the real positives is you start to get a sharing of spaces. So maybe one parking space can be used for a residential person who's there at night. Then they used to leave and go to work. And then during the day, someone can use that spot for an office use or a retail use. And so a collaborative mixed-use project like this really is much more efficient with parking.
If I may add to that, that's the beauty of a mixed-use development, exactly as Colin was saying, and there's more art than science to try to locate specific uses next door to each other that allow for the best possible efficient land stewardship. So put somebody that uses parking at night next to somebody that uses it during the day, so you get double use of the same parking, allows you to put more uses on the site, which allows you to add more economic development to the overall redevelopment. The next question that Tracy just handed me is there any chance for the skate park to return to the site? No promises here, but I'd love to talk to the folks that are involved with that, find out what their requirements are. My contact information is available at www.croslandsoutheast.com. Reach out, and I'd love to talk to you. Thanks.
So we had a great question that just came in, and it says, I'm a small business. Who can I contact to express interest of being a part of the contract, or the part of the project, excuse me. Love to hear those. And again, what Tim just said, you can reach out to him directly to be a part of that project. I'm sure they would welcome any interested parties. The next question is, what are you doing to further the city's sustainability plan through this project? And I think what I will say is we're not quite there yet on integrating our sustainability plan into it. Right now, we've been really focused on the land use plan. And adopting a land use plan, I think one of the steps is some of the shared parking and things like that we've talked about, and some of the mobility choices that we're introducing in terms of the greenway and other aspects. But then we'll get to another level as we work through and work towards the development agreement and the larger kind of public-private participation and partnership that we have together. The next question is, what equity measures and assessments have been used in the community feedback process? What has the socioeconomic, racial, ethnic breakdown been among the feedback participants? Right now, I do not have that information in terms of the breakdown, but we will definitely see what we can pull on that. And the equity measures is, I think that what I can say, and I'll let Colin or anybody else jump in, is that we have tried very hard to put this out and this information out as many different ways as we can to let people know it's out there to access. And I think then keeping it online as long as we can, and we have an email set up that we can take comments from today and beyond to continue that constant dialogue. We also will continue to have, and I think it's been said, a lot more public participation as we go through this process. With that, I will see if Colin, do you have anything to add to that? Okay. Do I have another question? Thank you. Will you provide written responses to all questions submitted and post the responses on the Eastland Redevelopment website? And you want to touch on the community reporting aspect of it?
I think we can do that. Another thing that we'll do, we'll have a community meeting report, and this is an innovative community meeting here that's kind of been running for 2 weeks, if you will. So by Friday, we will have posted, and I've said this a couple times in the presentation, but if you guys would like greater detail and really to look at the rezoning plan, to look at the development standards, the best way to find it is if you just Google Charlotte Rezoning, and it's petition 2020-027. That's Charlotte Rezoning 2020-027. That will take you to the website that the Planning Department maintains for this rezoning petition. And there you can find our rezoning application. You can find our site plan, and you can drill down and read all the fine print you'd like. You can also find memorandums from various city departments that have reviewed and provided comments on this rezoning petition. Also, we will have a copy of our community meeting presentation, which will be our original presentation, and our community meeting report will include a summary of the information that we're presenting today. So that's probably the best clearinghouse to find what you just asked for. All the information we're providing today, we will reduce to a written document, which will be posted on that website.
Thank you, Colin. I will let everybody know that we're still taking questions in, but we're answering them, I think, faster than we're getting them. So if you have questions, I encourage you to get them into us. The next question is, will Crosland Southeast request a CIP and TIG funding? Tax increment grant is what a TIG is. And I will say that we currently have CIP funding set aside for the east side that could be used on the Eastland site. That is part of our discussions that will be addressed in the development agreement, as well as a tax increment grant is a common tool that we use in public-private partnerships, and that has been discussed as well and will be vetted in more detail through the development agreement as we move and continue this process. Last two questions I currently have right this second is, how can we continue to provide feedback after this? And will this video be posted online? We will definitely post this video online. And then you can absolutely continue to provide feedback. We have the Envision Eastland website, envisioneastland.com. Please send us your questions, your comments, and your thoughts. As Colin has said, and I have said, we're in a new world. We're trying to figure out how to do this virtually, but we don't want the interaction to stop. We really want to continue to hear from the community. And one of the most exciting things about this project, along with the small business and the mixture of uses and what it can do for the east side, has been that community engagement. And we've gotten as far as we've gotten today with Eastland because we've had that engagement. So I encourage you to continue to reach out with questions or comments. I think I have one more question. Thank you. What can you say about existing interest to build on the site? You want to address that? Express your interest level.
If you have interest, by all means, reach out. So the development process like this is time-consuming, as you can see. We've been working on it now already for 18 months, and we're still pretty early in the process. I can tell you that we've had lots of conversations with lots of different businesses, merchants, both retail, some restaurants, some medical office, the home builders for the residential side, and on and on and on. The part of the whole process for the redevelopment at Eastland is to, in some sense, change the narrative. There has been historically a negative perception surrounding this particular site. Not surrounding East Charlotte, but surrounding this particular site. Why have businesses not succeeded on that site? Why has it been vacant for so long? So we need to change that narrative, and we have a orchestrated strategy for how we're working on that, both with the sports component, the residential component, the parks and green space component. All of those things allow us to tell the story to those merchants, restaurants, retailers, office tenants that we'd like to attract, that this is a new environment for East Charlotte. So I can't get into specifics with conversations. I can tell you I had a conference call yesterday. Somebody new called in. It's a big, pretty significant user, and I spent a good bit of time with them explaining the vision and the process and the timing, and I would say they were intrigued as well. So the marketing efforts will continue. Thank you.
Tim, before you leave, can I ask you a question? And can you talk a little bit about the community that has been engaged in this process and been with you along the way? What different community leaders, that we do have a diversity of community leaders from the East Side and different organizations that have been involved with us in this journey.
That's exactly right. So I should also mention, while I was off camera, I got a text, thank you, from one of your council members who is watching and wanted to call out my shirt. So for everybody's benefit. Yes, there's been very active community engagement. Over 700 people. I mentioned earlier 14 different groups. We've reached out to a huge variety of different groups representing really every ethnic group in East Charlotte, most that are organized, some that are not organized. And we wanted to make sure that we weren't just getting input from one large group and not from all the rest. So we were very strategic to make sure that we were getting conversation started with all kinds of different groups. I don't know if you wanted me to get into any more specifics than that, but and this community engagement process is ongoing. So to the extent you have a group, I was asked and participated in addition in making presentations on the vision to a number of different groups that were actively meeting on their own, and they said, hey, can you come in and give us an update on the process and the plan? And I'm happy to do that. So to the extent there are folks or groups out there that would like that part of engagement, we'd be happy to do that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. The next question that we have is, will development materials be translated into multiple languages? I think we can work with others from the East Side as well as our teams to see what can be translated as we move through this process, not only from the zoning piece, but the development agreement and other materials that we develop along the way. So thank you. Let's see if I have another question. Will development affect current development on Monroe Road? The anticipation is that it should not impact current development on Monroe Road. Again, this is something that we really want to see as another asset into the East Side, and not necessarily as something that would take away from any other portion of the East Side. This is intended to grow what the East Side really is and celebrate what the East Side really is. Colin, do you have a question?
I just wanted to add a little additional response to the questions about input and interaction on this rezoning petition, just to give you an update on where things stand. So, again, this is part 2 of our community meeting, and I appreciate that this has been interactive. Hopefully you're getting some information. The next step in the process is currently we anticipate a public hearing. And this is a unique petition in that the city is the property owner and one of the petitioners. But understand that every zoning, there's a public hearing, and that public hearing, like I said, it currently is scheduled for May 18th. That's Monday. And we are anticipating a distance public hearing. So for those of you that are interested, this will be heard in front of the City Council. Our team will make a presentation. Others from the community, if you would like to comment, or if you're opposed to this and want to express your concerns to your City Council members, you should reach out to the City Clerk by Monday morning and make sure that you have an opportunity to speak, so the council members can hear your input at the public hearing. At that point, we expect that the public hearing would close, but that's not the end of the process. Following the public hearing, this petition will go to your zoning committee. And the zoning committee is a volunteer board that will review this. They'll make a recommendation to City Council. I think the chairman of the zoning committee is an East Sider, Sam Spencer. He's very involved, so if you know him, feel free to interact with him. And then if we stay on the current timeline, the petition would come back before the City Council on June 15th for a decision. So this is a process. We filed our rezoning application in January, so we're going on a little bit more than 6 months, but we're not at the end of the line. There's an opportunity for you to speak directly to the public, to the City Council at the public hearing, for you to interact with your zoning committee members, and then ultimately our City Council will make a decision. Earliest possible decision would be June 15th.
I got it. Thank you, Colin. The next question that we got are, what are the anchor institutions planned to be integrated on the site? And what I would say to that is, I think in order to have successful mixed-use developments, you almost have to look at all the pieces as anchors in their own right. And so, as Tim walked through the big idea plan, the residents are actually seen as an anchor to this and are vital into the success of it. You have the two schools of Movement School and CMS that are site adjacent. The retail is a big piece, as well as the sports component to it. You also have the heart of it is the meet and eat, where the community really can come together as a part of it. And all these components together, I think, make the success. So I don't see it as we have one particular anchor, but that all of the pieces are mixed into, almost like making a recipe, mixed together to create something that is really special and unique for the East Side. One question I have for Tim that I'm going to ask him to come up and read.
Thank you, Tracy. The question is there a plan to integrate performance spaces and art on the site? The short answer is absolutely. Again, we're still early in the process. We're at the 50,000-foot level, developing the big vision for the site. As we start getting more granular, as we start getting into the actual design, the grading, and some of the vertical architectural designs, we will be identifying specific locations within the site that we can incorporate public art. And we have already started the process to reach out to some of the local art community, and we'd very much like to expand that outreach effort and get input from the various community members that are involved with that. Thanks.
And we have one last question. This is, what transportation options will be available beyond cars? And I think we talked about the integration of the transit center. So obviously we'll have bus access. We are looking at bike and ped mobility. We addressed that earlier. But then also remind everybody that this is on the third extension, or phase 3 of the Gold Line as well. And so the transportation options and mobility options are in the forefront as we think through the planning of this site and how people will be able to access the site. So with that, if we had any last comments from Tim, from Colin, great. I want to thank you all for being here today. Again, we will be happy to continue to take questions and comments from the community. I also want to thank Councilmember Newton for participating today and listening in. His support has been very helpful as we've moved through this process. And with that, if there is nothing else, again, we'll thank you for being here today and look forward to working with you in the future.